Because of their celebrity status, it's hard to believe that celebrities will ever face time behind bars. But our list today is just proof that sometimes they do get treated like any other person. Here's a list of celebrities who are currently in jail, 2021 edition. I am your host for this one, Joss Bedard. Make sure you guys subscribe to Top 10 Me on the screen so you don't miss another video, and leave a like on this one because it really helps us out. Starting off our list at number 10 is Massimo Giannulli, the designer, better known as Lori Loughlin's husband. The two of them were actually put behind bars in 2020 after getting caught for being involved in a college admissions scandal. They paid $500,000 in bribes to get their two daughters accepted early into the University of Southern California. They initially pleaded not guilty to the charges, but then later pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit fraud. Lori was sentenced to 2 months in prison and got released in December of 2020, while Massimo was sentenced to 5 months in prison, so he is still there and still has some time to go. Court documents showed his lawyers recently said that he was in quarantine for 56 days due to COVID-19 measures and concerns within the jail. His lawyers tried to get him released to serve the rest of his sentence at home, but he was denied. His projected release date is April 17th, 2021. Moving on to number 9 is Austin Jones. The former YouTube star was sentenced to jail at just 26 years old after he pleaded guilty to CP charges. He was sentenced in Chicago federal court to spend 10 years in prison for coercing girls to send explicit photos and videos to him. Prosecutors wanted an 11-year prison sentence, while the defense wanted the minimum available, which was 5 years. Court documents showed the prosecutors said he used his fame for power over some of his fans and would prey on them, knowing that they would do these things out of admiration for him. He was known for his YouTube videos, but also for his music. Some of his music videos gained millions of views, and he even went on tour for his music. But after pleading guilty, all of that was gone and his YouTube account was deleted. Moving on to number 8, we have Joe Exotic. He gained instant fame after his documentary aired on Netflix called Tiger King: Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. Go watch it if you haven't. Just do it. Commit to it. Watch it. The documentary focused around his life as the owner of a tiger zoo and also the rival he had with a woman named Carole Baskin. But by the end of the documentary, we learned that Joe was actually locked behind bars after he was found guilty for being involved in a murder for hire plot. He tried to hire someone to kill Carole Baskin, who was an animal rights activist, and was sentenced to 22 years in jail. Joe and his team thought he was going to get pardoned from the former president Donald Trump, but he was actually denied. His lawyers are now asking the judge to shorten his sentence, claiming that it was a close call. No updates have been given about that yet, so we will have to wait and see. Up next, number 7 is Joseph's son. He gained celebrity status after playing random tasks in the first Austin Powers movie, but lost everything when he was sentenced to prison for assaulting and torturing a woman. The crime actually happened in 1990, but he didn't get arrested and charged until 2011, which means he filmed the Austin Powers movie after committing the crime and nobody even knew. How twisted is that? DNA evidence finally linked him to the case all those years later. If that was not bad enough, just a few years ago in 2017, he was sentenced to 27 years for killing his cellmate. Court documents say that a cellmate was a man named Michael Graham, who was troubled and on suicide watch 30 days before his death. There was an altercation between the two of them, which resulted in his death. Joseph was already given a life sentence, but he got 27 years on top of the previous life sentence. Sniping the number 6 spot is Keith Raniere. He founded a group called Nixium, which was first described as a self-growth program where members could get to different levels using multi-level marketing. The group became very popular, receiving recognition and praise after even some celebrities joined it. So it seemed legit. But the group was eventually exposed for being a sex cult that was recruiting women as slaves and then forcing them into trafficking. Victims from the group came forward with disturbing stories and evidence about their time spent within the group. One victim showed her scar from the branding that they had to get burned on their body, which was his initials. He was sentenced in 2020 to 120 years in prison for counts of racketeering, trafficking, and sexual exploitation. Despite being found guilty though, he remained innocent the entire time and called all of his victims liars. Halfway through at number 5, we have Trevon Boykin. The TCU football star lost his entire career in 2020 when he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. At just 26 years old, he was the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks but was charged with aggravated assault, causing serious bodily injury and tampering with a witness. He was accused by his girlfriend at the time, who accused him of breaking her jaw during a domestic violent altercation. He pleaded guilty to those charges and also pleaded guilty to 2 misdemeanor theft charges. His defense attorney released a statement saying that he would not be treated any differently than anyone else in jail and that he takes full responsibility for his actions. He also said that he hopes his football career will be able to continue after he serves his sentence. Rolling into our number 4 spot is Bill Cosby. His jail sentencing was one of the biggest scandals in Hollywood history. He was one of their biggest actors, but then got accused of sexual misconduct and assault by over 50 different people. Allegations began to surface in 2014 from different women, and in 2018 he was found guilty and sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison. Organizations cut ties with the actor, and media organizations pulled all reruns of The Cosby Show. He is currently serving a sentence, and he did an interview in 2019 about his experience in there. At the time, he referred to his jail cell as a penthouse and said he is very privileged there. He explained that he sets up group meetings each week with other inmates where he tries to help and educate them. As for the trials he went through to get there, he believes that they were not fair. He said, I quote, "It's all a setup, the whole jury thing. They were imposters." He's always claimed to be innocent throughout this whole thing, but he also admitted that he thinks he will be spending the 10 years in prison. In spot number 3 is R. Kelly. A lot of people didn't believe the R&B singer would ever be put behind bars, while others thought that he should have been there a long time ago. For the last 2 decades, he has faced allegations of abuse and sexual misconduct. Throughout the allegations, he was somehow still able to have a career, which a lot of people did not agree with. But in 2018, some very serious claims came out, and in 2019, he was officially charged. He was charged with 13 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse and 2 separate federal indictments for trafficking. Old documentary footage actually surfaced and confirmed that he knew the girl's age and still proceeded to have a relationship with her. He is currently behind bars until his trial, which was first set for 2020 but got pushed back due to the coronavirus pandemic. As of right now, at the time of this recording, he will be going to trial in September for these charges. Taking over the number 2 spot is Ricardo Medina Jr. It was in 2017 when the world was shocked to hear that a Power Ranger star was being sent to prison. But the reasoning why was more shocking than anything. At just 38 years old, he pleaded guilty to stabbing his roommate to death with a sword 2 years prior. He was found guilty for voluntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 6 years in state prison. Doesn't sound like enough time, if you ask me, but here is what happened. Turns out he was originally charged with first-degree murder, which carries 26 years to life in prison, but after a trial and evidence shown in court, the charge was changed. Documents say he and his roommate were arguing over Ricardo's girlfriend, and the fight became physical. The sword was allegedly used for self-defense and was the closest thing that he could grab at the time, and it was not a pre-planned crime. In our number 1 spot is Harvey Weinstein, another massive Hollywood scandal that was heavily documented. People were anxiously waiting for him to get sentenced and put behind bars, but his case lasted a few years before he was finally convicted. Harassment allegations surfaced in 2017 when the New York Times published a story detailing the allegations against him. Some allegations came from some of his own employees, while others came from actresses he worked with like Rose McGowan and Ashley Judd. The case lasted from 2017 to 2020, but he was eventually sentenced to 23 years in prison after being found guilty. He was last seen at the end of 2020 in December in a video hearing he had where his team asked the judge for him to be extradited due to health concerns and the coronavirus. His hearing was postponed until April 2021, so it is coming up, and we will just have to wait and see what happens with that. Alright guys, I'm gonna end this video with some comments from one of my other videos, Celebrities Who Will Never Work Again 2021. Thanos Dreamhouse says, Joss's outfits are always the cutest. Maybe at the studio, but trust me, if you saw what I looked like every other day at home. Angelique Alessandra says, so you can say the words domestic violence, but is muted. I got a lot of comments on that video because there was a lot of censoring and people were not happy. So just so you know, YouTube came out with these policies. These words have to be muted, and if our editor doesn't mute them, YouTube actually censors them. So yeah, not our fault, it's YouTube's policies. Ziggy Masterella says, which grocery store did you get that hat from? It was actually Zehrs Superstore, because they have a Joe Fresh section with hats. I do be cheap. Kathleen Newell says, where have you been, JB? Everyone says this, guys. Like, I'm here every week, multiple times a week. It's just we have more videos and more hosts, so it seems like I'm on it less, but I'm on it the same. Just spread out more. All right, guys, that's all I got. I'm getting out of here. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe. I was your host, Joss. I will see you next time. Bye.